Hey there, everybody! So, I have a few announcements that I would like to make before starting today, but I would like to take a look back at our schedule just for a moment. So, please keep in mind that all of the final drafts that I have received have been graded. You can find your grade on your issue proposal on Blackboard. Now, if you do not have a grade submitted for your issue proposal, it is probably because A, I have not gotten the final draft from you, or B, I am waiting on to get that link from you. So please make sure that you submit it properly. Otherwise, I won't be able to grade your issue proposal, but all of the current final drafts that I do have for the issue proposal, like I said, have been commented on and graded. So please do definitely keep that in mind. If you have not gotten your final draft to me, then do let me know. I know I have a few students that have asked for extensions. If that is the case and you have not gotten in touch with me, do definitely get in touch with me as soon as possible. And I would be more than willing to give an extension on that paper. But I do have to keep the semester moving since we still have quite a bit of stuff to do in the next few weeks. So anyway, moving on from that. What we're doing today is actually diving right into our annotated bibliography, and that is the second assignment of the semester. So last class I went over the lesson on ethos and evaluating sources and the annotated bib part 1. Now what we're talking about today are actually the guidelines for the assignment, so we will review those, but you can find the link right in our schedule here, right on Blackboard. You can find the link right to the guidelines, and these are the guidelines that I'll be talking about. So the last lesson that we went over had to do with fake news and social media. So today's lesson is very much focused on how to evaluate sources and how to begin drafting your annotated bibliography. Please keep in mind that discussion board number 2 is also due on Tuesday, March 9th by midnight. So if you have not done that already, please be sure to do so. But here's the lesson for today, Annotated Bibliography and Evaluating Sources, Part 2. So anyway, I would like to pretty much start with that just because this might be a little bit of a longer video. I have quite a bit to talk about today. So here is the lesson that I will be going over in today's video. So anyway, this is introducing the annotated bibliography. So what is an annotated bibliography? And I might just shorten it to annotated bib just for the sake of simplicity and also for the sake of time. So what is an annotated bib? It is very much a list of sources on your topic. So the list will include 2 paragraphs on each source that annotates the qualities of the source. And last class, we actually talked about the CRAP test. So what is an annotated bib? So it is a list of citations to various sources like books, articles, and documents. So each citation is followed by a descriptive and evaluative paragraph, or 2 separate paragraphs per source. So the purpose of the annotation is to inform the reader of the relevance, the accuracy, and quality of the sources cited. So these are the guidelines that I would like to go over, but you can find the link right in our lesson for today. So anyway, this is the link to the guidelines here. So I would like to go over these a bit in depth today. So now that you have identified an issue for research this semester, it's time to do that. So an annotated bib is a list of sources on a specific topic that includes evaluative or descriptive annotations for each. So as you research your topic, you want to develop an annotated bibliography of relevant sources. So those should include annotations for at least 7 to 10 sources that represent multiple perspectives on your issue. So the list should be compiled in alphabetical order using the appropriate citation style. So in this case, since this is an English course, it will be in MLA style. So we have practiced MLA mechanics quite a bit already, but just for the record, you can also find the MLA guide book and the Little Seagull handbook, and those are pages 109 through 148. And it includes directions on how to format citations. Now, the library is also a great place to ask for help with research, the bibliography, and citations. So keeping that in mind, your annotation for each source should consist of 2 paragraphs. So the first paragraph that you want to think about. So the sources you choose should be from experts in the field, but some sources can be particularly challenging. So remember that the librarians at JCC have constructed the craft test for you so that you can determine which sources have a high enough ethos to be included in your bibliography. So use the link and then the guided questions below to help administer the craft test and fill out your annotative paragraph. So this is actually a link to the library guide on fake news. So this is the LibGuide about what fake news is. So we have talked about the craft test already and during our last lesson in great detail. So things to be thinking about is, so when evaluating your sources, these are definitely things you want to consider. So C in craft stands for currency. How recently was the information published or posted? Can you find a publication date? If the source is not recent, will the date affect the information? And you definitely want to keep in mind to find sources from within the last 5 years. Now, the R in craft stands for relevance. Does the information answer your research questions? Now, many of you have posed research questions within your issue proposal, and those are things to keep in mind. Like I said, these assignments within Comp 2 definitely build upon one another. So who is the intended audience and how do you know this? So for authority, it's who wrote the information. Who wrote the information? Are they an expert or knowledgeable in their field? So for example, in health information, did a doctor or a nurse write it? For scientific information, did a scientist or researcher write it? So now the second A in CRAP stands for accuracy. Is the information supported by evidence? Can it be confirmed by other sources? What evidence do you see? And the P in CRAP stands for purpose or point of view. Why was it written? Was it to sell something, to sway opinion? Is it biased toward a particular point of view? And how do you know? Now, in your second paragraph for each annotation, you will need to summarize the piece, identify its purpose, and anticipate how you will use the source. You should summarize the content of the piece in a way that demonstrates you have read the source and that you understand its content, or at least the main idea. So secondly, all sources present a main idea or claim, even if they appear to be purely informational, because all works have authors with agendas. So you definitely want to think about identifying their thesis, claim, or main idea. Then let us know why this source is here. Why did you put it within your bibliography? Tell us how you plan to use it, as a representative of a major player, for background information, for statistics, or for its argument. Now, in terms of formatting and length, length can be a little bit tricky to pinpoint, depending on how long your sources and your annotations might be. But if you have 7 sources, generally I have seen students turn in about 7 pages. But that can be 5 to 7 pages. It might vary on length, especially of your annotations. So page length may vary, like I said, from 5 to 7 pages, depending on how long both paragraphs are for each entry. So in terms of MLA formatting, the bibliography has very few formatting errors. So formatting is very particularly important for the annotated bib. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But you want to make sure that it's in Times New Roman and 12-point font that is titled Annotated Bibliography, and also that the entries are arranged in alphabetical order by the author's last name. Now you might be thinking, what about website pages that don't have authors? And I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. You also have to make sure that the paragraphs are properly indented. But first, I would like to interact with some of these links that I have within this handout here, and I would definitely recommend taking some time out of your schedule to look at these just because they will be very helpful before diving into drafting the annotated bib. So the first thing that I want to talk about is if you need a sort of overview of MLA style. There is a link here to the MLA style guide from Purdue OWL. Now Purdue OWL I use for many of my courses. I also use it for tutoring. It is generally very reliable. So the link here talks about MLA general format. It will tell you how to format a paper in MLA style. And it also has various things on here. So let's say that you don't know how to do in-text citations. It will show you how to do in-text citations. It will also show you how to do citations for other sources. But one thing that I would like to search for is the annotated bibliography in MLA format. So this will even tell you the process of what an annotated bibliography is, how to write one, and there's even usually some videos on here as well. So like I said, the first part is always to summarize your source, and then you can assess it and then reflect upon it. So why is it important to write an annotated bib? It's also to learn about your topic and to help other researchers. So we're very much participating further in that research process. So this is also the annotated bibliography breakdown. So this gives examples of how an annotated bibliography, what it looks like, and also what the annotations might look like. So that's one of the links here. So let's say that you need help from a reference librarian. Now keep in mind that during library hours, I think the library hours this semester are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., I believe so. But if you need help from a JCC librarian, you can always check out this link and you can click right on it and it will take you to this page. So if you ever have a question, a problem, or an idea, or that sort of thing, they also have a live chat. And usually the chat is available during library hours, and then you're able to type in your subject, details, your email, and then hit submit. And what that will do will connect you right to a live chat with a librarian. But you can also send an email during off hours, and they'll usually get back to you pretty quickly. Now you can also call the library during their hours. So the library phone number is actually right here, and I have met many of our wonderful librarians that work at the front desk. They are always more than willing to help you. So anyway, just keeping that in mind, so librarians are always very much here to help you. Now this is also a wonderful page. So this is kind of a wonderful way to navigate the library section. So if you want to search articles and databases, you can go ahead and do that. You can also go under the LibGuides, and they also have LibGuides. I believe they also have one. Yeah, so they do have an MLA A-Style Edition LibGuide as well. So what this is that it will take you to a link of an example of an annotated bibliography, so you can find an example of what a bibliography looks like. And this is Purdue OWL, so it pretty much just takes you right to Purdue OWL. But there's also how to format an MLA style. And it also gives you examples of citations. So anyway, just keeping that in mind as well. So if you need help with MLA formatting and citations, something that I do recommend to my students is looking at easybib.com. So this is a really cool website. I also use this one quite a bit for tutoring. So this is how to format an MLA style paper, but what EasyBib does is sort of introduce you to MLA style. It will also give sort of tips on how to format things, also how to do quotations, gives you everything that you pretty much need to know about MLA style. Now, in particular, the citation generator is very helpful. So what the citation generator does, it will help you create citations. So let's say that you have a journal article that you want to cite that you want to cite in MLA style. Now, keeping that in mind, I will open a separate tab here and actually go back to our library page. So let's say that you wanted to sit down and start doing research. So the best way to do that is to go to articles and databases. And like I said, EBSCO is also a very excellent place to find sources. So it might prompt you to log into the database. So let's say that I wanted to find an article about social media. So one thing that you do want to make sure that you have checked marked, that you have scholarly peer-reviewed journals checked marked, and also that you have full text check marked. Now, since we want to look for stuff within the last 5 years, you can also fine-tune your search and make sure that it is within the last 5 years. So let's say I wanted to use this article. So let's say that I wanted to create a citation for this article. So there's a very easy way to do that. So what Citation Machine allows you to do is, let's say I wanted to create a citation for this article. So what that will do is, once you search for it on EasyBib, it will actually pop right up. And let's say that I wanted to cite that article. You would click on Cite. And you want to make sure that the information is accurate, but most times it is. And then hit complete citation, and it will come up right with that citation for you. So then what you can do is if you want to copy the citation into a Google document, you can always do that. So that's the reason I put that a link to EasyBib. But EasyBib has a ton of cool stuff, so I do want to take a little bit more of a look at their citation guide as well. So they also have MLA format guide here. And then they also have a link to the annotated bibliography format. So this is really nice because it gives different examples of how an annotated bibliography is written. So definitely things that you want to think about in terms of general MLA bibliography format is that it should have 1-inch margins and that it should be an MLA style, but it also gives examples of what different entries might look like for books, what it might look like for websites, what it might look for in terms of annotations and that kind of thing. So anyway, just keeping that in mind. So I already did check, already show the link of Purdue OWL, and there is a sample annotated bibliography that you can find. Now, one thing that I do also want to highlight is that I also have this MLA citation and formatting handout, and you can find the link right to it within our guidelines here. So what this is this is a custom handout that was actually written by our wonderful JCC librarian, Cassie Wagner. So she took the time to write out MLA article citation examples, how citations are written. She also included how to cite things that don't have an author. So if you have things like a website that doesn't have an author, that will be found within here as well. And she also included in-text citation examples and also included a page on MLA style. She also included a sample works cited page. So that's definitely something to be looking at as well. So how do you evaluate an article? So I have already talked extensively about the CRAP test, but there is also another handout here that you can look at. How to apply the CRAP test when looking at possible sources. So that is there for you as well. But I would like to look at the stuff down here. So I also have examples, an example of an entry and formatting. But I also have a link here to a sample paper from a previous student of mine that wrote her annotated bibliography. So I would like to take a look at the sample paper as well. So she did a really excellent job here in terms of formatting, and she did it really well with her annotations as well. So if you want to take a look at an example, you can always take a look at this as well. She has about 7 sources here, so her annotated bibliography was about 7 pages. But her topic was actually the legalization of marijuana, so that is there for you to look at as well. So I have included the link to the sample annotated bib that is here for you to look at your own leisure. But like I said, you definitely want to keep in mind the CRAP test when looking at viable sources for your annotated bibliography. So like I said, the C stands for currency, the R stands for relevance, A stands for authority, and that second A stands for accuracy, and that P stands for purpose or point of view. So some additional things to be looking at. What source is good to use? So you can use any source you wish as long as it has currency, relevancy, and reality. So what that means in terms of currency, how recent is your source? What date was it published? Is your source related to your issue? And did it pass the CRAP test? So with that in mind, we are going to begin drafting our next writing lab. And our next writing lab is on research focus, and this will help you begin drafting the annotated bibliography. So in terms of the issue proposal, you have gone so far as to anticipate some general players in the debate. So you anticipated general research questions. Now we need more of a focus for research. How did you identify as involved in the debate? We need to listen to them now, so we can start gathering sources that show different viewpoints on the topic. So think discourse communities rather than individual people. We are looking for groups that have a major stake in your conversation. Now, I know a few of you are even doing one on mental health. So in terms of that, just as an example, a few students were talking about using the American Psychological Association in terms of talking about mental health. So that would be an example there. So here's an example about climate change and some of these discourse communities. And you learned about discourse communities within 1510. So what are some of the groups that have a stake in the argument? What do you know now about these groups? What will you need to find out about these groups? So let's say an example about climate change. Some discourse communities that you might be thinking about in terms of that particular topic are environmentalists, maybe different fuel companies or oil companies, landowners, nonprofits, politicians, and scientists. Now here's an example about gun control. So of course, all of these different groups on gun control have different views on gun rights. So gun owners might have different opinions, so does the NRA, or gun victims, gun shop owners, collectors, politicians, both liberal and conservative, and even teachers have their own views as well. So same thing for space exploration. And there's actually a very interesting association out now called SpaceX, and they are actually working on making space exploration a little bit more accessible by the everyday American, just as an example. But anyways, some of those groups might view space exploration. So NASA definitely would be for space exploration. That's what they're all about. That is their whole mission. Astronauts, the Space Force, astronomers, and scientists, environmentalists, and taxpayers. So you can access the living issue list by clicking on this link. And it will also take you to different links on different topics. So I have talked about this during the first week of class, but it will take you to a sort of page about your topic. So the Opposing Viewpoints database is a good place to start. So what you're going to do is go to the JCC library. And you can go right to the library page. I have already demonstrated in this video how to get to the library page. And then you want to click on databases. And then you can click on opposing viewpoints. So researching with JCC. Let's say that you wanted to research the COVID-19 pandemic and the different viewpoints on that. So you can type in your topic into the search box. So you can definitely take a look at all of the resources available. On Thursday, we will be doing a bit more of a focused library workshop. So today is very much just a brief introduction to the assignment itself. So you want to investigate the arguments of others. What are they saying? So one thing to keep in mind is looking at the titles and who wrote the source and where it's from. So let's say it as an example from space exploration. This viewpoint is from an environmentalist who is worried about nuclear waste. So nuclear power in space is dangerous. So this one is from a viewpoint is from a scientist or engineer who wants to colonize the moon. So obviously they would be for space travel. And so the title is Humans Should Resume Exploring the Moon and Outer Space. That pretty much gets their main argument across right away. So definitely looking at titles is helpful. And looking at where it's from. So this is from the Journal of Space Exploration. So like I said, you can always ask a librarian if you need help locating sources, or you're not sure how to access the database page. So you can always click on the link chat now, chat with us. That is pretty much within our guidelines. I have pretty much talked extensively about that as well. So definitely something that I would like everyone to try in terms of beginning drafting their annotated bibliographies. Find one source you want to put within your annotated bib. So find a source. This can be any source you choose as long as it's relevant to your chosen issue. And you want to make sure that it is scholarly and peer-reviewed, or at least is reliable, and that it does pass the CRAP test. So the second thing that you want to consider when picking out your sources is applying the CRAP test to the source by answering the questions on slide 4. Now, if we look back at slide 5, actually, sorry. It is actually slide 5. But taking a look at the CRAP test. So is your source current? Is it relevant? Is the authority credible? Is the accuracy there? And is the purpose and point of view relevant to what you are writing about? So anyway, if you have any questions, do feel free to email me. But that is pretty much all for today. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you on Thursday. Bye, everybody!